Before you spend another $2 million, can someone bring me a $9 fuse? Ryan Mercer asked. The laughter began near the back of the private showroom, where 30 engineers stood beneath a chandelier large enough to belong in a hotel lobby. In the center of the marble floor, Charles Harrington's yellow Lamborghini remained silent, surrounded by diagnostic carts, open laptops, coiled cables, and men who had flown in from 3 states to explain why it would not start. Evelyn Harrington stood beside the driver's door with an untouched glass of champagne in one hand and 11 months of frustration hidden behind a face trained not to show it. The memorial for her father was less than 24 hours away. She had already approved nearly $2 million in repairs. The car had not made a sound. Ryan had entered through the service corridor 10 minutes earlier carrying a cardboard box of sensors for the event team. He wore a gray work shirt with his name stitched above the pocket, dark jeans, and the tired expression of a man who had started his day before sunrise. His 7-year-old daughter, Emma, sat near the door with a yellow toy Lamborghini balanced across her knees. Her sitter had cancelled at the last minute. Ryan had apologized once and expected to leave after the delivery. Then someone tried the ignition. The starter relay clicked. A warning code flashed on one screen for less than a second and disappeared. Derek Vaughn, Harrington Automotive's chief technical officer, ordered another software reset. Ryan stopped walking. He looked at the wiring diagram displayed on the nearest monitor, then at the open fuse panel behind the passenger seat. One fuse was the wrong color. Not obviously wrong. Close enough to pass a quick inspection. Wrong enough to matter under load. Who are you? Derek asked. Ryan set the box on a side table. Delivery for event logistics. More laughter followed. Derek smiled without warmth. Then deliver it. Ryan did not answer. He listened as the relay clicked again. Emma rolled the toy car across her knees and watched her father's face. She knew that expression. He used it when a sound did not match what a machine was supposed to be doing. Evelyn looked from Ryan to the 30 specialists surrounding her father's car. You think a fuse caused 11 months of failure? I think everyone here trusted the last person who checked it. Derek stepped between Ryan and the Lamborghini. This vehicle has had its control unit replaced, its fuel system tested, its security module rewritten, and half its electrical network removed. We are not wasting time on a hardware store guess. Ryan looked at the fuse panel. Then you have already wasted enough. The room changed. Not loudly. A few engineers stopped smiling. Dr. Samuel Reed, the oldest among them, turned toward the panel and adjusted his glasses. Evelyn set down her champagne. How much time do you need? Ryan glanced at Emma, then back at the car. 10 minutes. And if you are wrong? Derek asked. Ryan picked up the empty parts box. Then I finish my delivery and leave. Evilly. The Lamborghini had been silent for 11 months, but Evelyn Harrington could still remember the last time her father drove it. Charles had taken the yellow car out alone on a cold Sunday morning, returned before noon, and parked it beneath the same chandelier where 30 engineers now stood arguing over voltage readings and software logs. 3 weeks after his funeral, Evelyn had tried to start it for the first time. The dashboard lights came alive, the starter relay clicked once, and a warning code flashed so quickly that the technician beside her missed it. Then the screen cleared itself. The engine remained still. At first, everyone treated the problem as temporary. A weak battery. A damaged relay. A security lock triggered by storage. Harrington Automotive sent its best electrical team. They replaced the battery, tested the ignition circuit, and confirmed that the fuel pumps responded. Nothing changed. 2 specialists from California arrived with factory diagnostic equipment. They spent 4 days tracing the network between the control unit, immobilizer, and starter system. The same code appeared for less than 1 second each time and vanished before the software could save it. Derek Vaughn called it corrupted communication data. Evelyn approved a replacement control module. The invoice was more than most people earned in a year. The car stayed silent. Over the months that followed, each failed repair made the next theory more expensive. The wiring harness was opened. Sensors were replaced. The security software was rewritten. One team blamed the fuel pressure. Another blamed a hidden ground fault. A third suggested removing the engine and rebuilding the entire electrical system around it. Evelyn signed every authorization because the car was no longer only a machine. It was the last thing her father had touched without knowing it would be the last. The first anniversary memorial was scheduled for the following evening. Former employees, investors, and members of the press would gather in the private showroom while Charles Harrington's final interview played across the main screen. Evelyn had planned to start the Lamborghini after the video ended. She had made the promise before she understood how much silence could cost. Derek stood beside a display board showing months of tests and nearly $2 million in approved work. "We can still replace the complete harness tonight," he said. $600,000. It is the only responsible option. Dr. Samuel Reed looked at the open fuse panel and did not agree. He had spent 30 years diagnosing European performance cars, and failure had made him quieter, not louder. "You do not replace 30 miles of wiring because one signal disappears," he said. "You find where it disappears." Derek turned away. "We have looked everywhere." From near the service door, Ryan listened without interrupting. Emma sat beside him, turning the wheels of her toy Lamborghini with one finger. On the nearest monitor, the archived error log showed an empty line where the missing code should have been. Ryan looked at the time stamp, then at the fuse panel, then at the diagnostic unit still connected to the car. The code did not vanish randomly. It vanished every time the system came under load. "Dad," Emma whispered, "is the car broken?" Ryan watched Derek clear the screen again before the test. "Something is," he said. "I am not sure it is the car." Ryan had not been invited to the Harrington estate as a mechanic. He had come because the event logistics team had ordered a replacement set of parking sensors for one of the display vehicles, and Marcus Bell, who owned the small parts store where Ryan worked 3 mornings a week, had asked him to make the delivery on his way home. Emma came with him because her sitter had cancelled before lunch, and Ryan did not have anyone else to call. He had spent the previous 6 years arranging his life around that kind of calculation. School pickup. Repair shifts. Grocery money. Time. His wife, Laura, had died when Emma was 2, leaving behind a mortgage, a box of hospital bills, and a daughter who had learned too early that some people did not come back through the front door. Ryan never spoke about sacrifice. He packed lunches, repaired alternators, attended parent conferences, and kept moving. The work shirt he wore had a faded patch above the pocket and a small tear near one cuff. His toolbox was older than several engineers in the showroom. None of that changed what he heard. When the Lamborghini was tested again, the relay clicked cleanly. The control unit woke. The security system approved the key. Then the voltage dropped across one protected branch for less than half a second. The engineers watched the main diagnostic screens. Ryan watched the timing. Derek Vaughn noticed him standing near the service corridor and frowned. "The delivery entrance is behind you." Ryan lifted the cardboard box slightly. "I know. Then why are you still here?" Ryan looked toward the nearest monitor. A technician had cleared the failed attempt before the system finished recording it. "Because you keep erasing the only useful clue." Several heads turned. Derek walked closer. "You are a delivery driver." "Today." The answer landed without anger. Emma sat near the wall, rolling her yellow toy Lamborghini across the arm of a chair. She had seen people mistake her father for less than he was before. Ryan never corrected them unless the work required it. Dr. Samuel Reed stepped away from the car and studied Ryan more carefully. "What clue?" Ryan pointed toward the archived voltage graph. The drop starts after authorization, before the starter command reaches full load. That means the key is accepted, the control unit is awake, and the engine is not the first failure. Derek folded his arms. That conclusion ignores every diagnostic report produced in this room. No, Ryan said. It explains why they all failed. Evelyn stood near the driver's door, silent now. The polished showroom reflected the yellow car, the chandelier, and 30 expensive sets of tools surrounding one unanswered problem. "What do you do?" she asked. Ryan looked at her. "Electrical diagnostics. Mostly fleet vehicles, older European systems, anything other shops replace before they understand." Derek gave a short laugh. "This is not a delivery van." Ryan nodded. "Electricity does not care what badge is on the hood." Dr. Reed looked down to hide the beginning of a smile. Derek did not. "You have not inspected the car." "I have watched 3 attempts. From 20 feet away. Far enough to see that your fuse layout does not match the factory diagram." The room became quiet. Ryan walked no closer, but he pointed toward the open panel behind the passenger seat. "Position 14 should be a slow-blow 40-amp fuse with a gray housing. The one installed is blue." Derek glanced at the panel, then at the schematic. For the first time, he did not answer immediately. Evelyn looked between them. Could the wrong fuse create this? Ryan's eyes stayed on the panel. Only under load. Which is why it looks healthy until the exact moment you need it. Emma stopped rolling the toy car. Derek stepped in front of the panel. "No one touches this vehicle without authorization." Evelyn held his gaze for one long second. "Then I am authorizing him." Evelyn did not authorize Ryan because she trusted him. She authorized him because every trusted person in the room had failed. The memorial deadline sat less than 24 hours away. The board had begun asking whether the car should be removed from the program, and Derek's latest proposal required another $600,000 to replace wiring no one had proved defective. Evelyn stood beside the yellow Lamborghini with one hand resting near the roof, not touching it. Her father had always said machines punished impatience, but grief had made patience feel like surrender. 10 minutes, she said. "If you are wrong, this ends." Ryan nodded once. "That is enough." Derek stepped closer to her. "Evelyn, this is irresponsible. He has not reviewed the service history, the factory software, or the replacement records. Neither have you found the problem." The words were quiet. That made them sharper. Around the car, engineers shifted their attention between Derek and Ryan. Dr. Samuel Reed removed his glasses and cleaned them slowly, the expression of a man willing to watch an assumption tested. Ryan remained outside the technical perimeter. "I need the correct fuse first," he said. "Slow blow, 40 amp, gray housing, factory specification." A younger technician checked the parts carts and shook his head. Derek gave a thin smile. "We do not stock $9 hardware store parts for a $4 million car." Ryan looked at him. "That may be why it is still silent." A few people near the rear display tried not to react. Evelyn noticed. "Where can we get one?" "Bell Auto Electric on Granger Avenue. Marcus keeps European stock." Claire Bennett, Evelyn's assistant, checked the distance on her phone. 22 minutes each way in current traffic. "Call him," Ryan said. "He will send someone." Derek laughed openly this time. "We are delaying an entire memorial because a delivery driver wants a fuse from a neighborhood parts store." Emma looked up from the chair near the wall. The toy Lamborghini rested across her knees. "Dad fixes cars," she said. Her voice was small, but the showroom carried it. Derek glanced toward her, then back at Ryan. "Does he?" Ryan did not answer for himself. He took out his phone and called Marcus. "I need a gray 40-amp slow blow for an early Aventador protection branch. Check the blade width before you send it." Marcus asked one question, listened, then said he would have it there in 15 minutes. Ryan ended the call. Evelyn studied him. You knew the exact part without opening the panel. I knew what should be there. And if the diagram is wrong? Then the car teaches me something new. Derek folded his arms. And while we wait, what exactly do you plan to do? Ryan pointed to the diagnostic cart surrounding the Lamborghini. Disconnect every external device. Several engineers protested at once. One explained that the systems were logging voltage. Another said they needed the live data. Derek stepped between Ryan and the nearest cable. Absolutely not. Ryan remained still. One of those units is sending a wake signal into the protection circuit every time you test the ignition. Dr. Reed looked at the equipment. That would create a false load. Ryan nodded. And make the wrong fuse open before the starter command completes. Evelyn looked at Derek. Unplug them. He did not move. You could erase months of calibration. Then save the files and unplug them. Claire began directing technicians to back up the data. One by one, cables were removed from the car. The room grew quieter with each connection released. Ryan watched the final diagnostic unit. Derek kept one hand on it longer than necessary. Ryan saw that. So did Claire. When the last cable came free, the Lamborghini stood alone beneath the chandelier for the first time in 11 months. 15 minutes later, Marcus Bell arrived through the service entrance carrying a small paper bag that looked almost absurd beneath the chandelier. He wore a brown work jacket, held a printed receipt in one hand, and glanced once at the yellow Lamborghini before finding Ryan near the open fuse panel. Gray housing, 40 amp, slow blow, he said. $9.12 with tax. Derek looked at the bag as though it were an insult. Ryan thanked Marcus, took the fuse, and held it beneath the work light. The metal blades were clean, the housing unmarked, the spacing correct. He placed it on a white shop towel beside the blue fuse that had been removed from position 14. Dr. Samuel Reed stepped closer. From a distance, the two parts appeared nearly identical. Up close, the difference became harder to ignore. The blue fuse was rated for the same current, but its internal delay curve was wrong for the protection branch. More troubling was the thin line along one blade where the metal had been filed by hand. Ryan turned it under the light. This contact was narrowed. Claire leaned forward. What does that do? It carries enough current to look healthy during a basic test, Ryan said. Then resistance rises under load. The voltage drops, the protection circuit opens, and the system blames whatever module reports last. Dr. Reed studied the mark through a magnifier. That is not normal wear. No, Derek remained beside the disconnected diagnostic cart. You are making a serious accusation based on a scratch. Ryan looked at him. I am describing a part. You are implying someone altered it. The file marks are even. Where is not? Evelyn stood near the driver's door, watching every face except Ryan's. Who installed the fuse? Claire opened the maintenance archive on her tablet. Derek answered before she found the record. A junior technician replaced several protection components after the funeral. Routine service. Claire looked up. The work order was approved through your office. All executive vehicle work was approved through my office. His response came too quickly. Ryan did not react. He checked the fuse socket with a small light, then measured resistance across the branch with a handheld meter from his canvas tool pouch. The reading remained stable. He inspected the terminals, cleaned one contact, and compared the wire color to the factory diagram DR. Reed had opened on a laptop no longer connected to the car. Everything downstream appeared intact. Emma had moved closer but stayed behind the velvet barrier Evelyn's staff had placed around the work area. She held the toy Lamborghini against her chest. Is that little piece really the problem? She asked. Ryan looked toward her. It is one problem. What is the other one? Ryan glanced at the unplugged diagnostic unit. Someone kept helping it fail. The room went still again. Derek gave a quiet, disbelieving laugh. This is theater. Install the fuse. Let the car prove you wrong. Ryan placed the new part into position 14 and pressed until the housing seated fully. A soft click came from the panel. He closed the cover, then walked around the Lamborghini without touching the ignition. Evelyn watched him. Why are you waiting? Because the car has been forced through the same failed sequence for 11 months, Ryan said. I want one clean attempt. He checked that every external cable remained disconnected, asked Yar. Read to watch the voltage meter, and listened once more to the silent relay circuit. Marcus handed him the receipt. Ryan folded it and placed it in his shirt pocket. Evelyn reached for the key resting on the center console. Ryan stopped beside the open driver's door. You should start it. She looked at him. Why me? Because it was your father's car. Emma raised 5 fingers from behind the barrier. I can count. Evelyn sat in the driver's seat and wrapped one hand around the key. Dr. Reed watched the meter. Claire watched Derek. Ryan watched the fuse panel. Emma lowered one finger. 5. 4, Emma said, lowering another finger. Evelyn's hand remained on the key, but she did not turn it yet. The showroom had gone so quiet that the faint hum of the chandelier fixtures seemed louder than the people standing around the car. 3. Dr. Samuel Reed watched the voltage meter. Claire held her tablet against her chest. Marcus stood near the service entrance with the empty paper bag folded in one hand. Derek kept his eyes on the disconnected diagnostic cart instead of the Lamborghini. 2. Ryan listened for the relay. He had learned years earlier that machines often told the truth before people did, but only if someone gave them enough silence. 1. Evelyn turned the key. The dashboard lights came alive in sequence. The security system approved the ignition. The starter engaged without hesitation. For one brief second, nothing else happened. Then the engine caught. The sound rolled through the private showroom in a deep, even note, not violent, not dramatic, simply alive after 11 months of silence. Evelyn did not remove her hand from the key. She sat very still, looking through the windshield as if the marble room had disappeared and she was somewhere years earlier, waiting for her father to return from a Sunday drive. No one applauded. Dr. Reed lowered his glasses and checked the meter again. The voltage held steady. The protection circuit remained closed. Every system stabilized exactly where the factory specification said it should. Emma stopped moving the toy car across her knees. A small smile appeared on her face. Ryan watched the idle settle, then listened for any uneven rhythm. There was none. He looked toward the fuse panel, then at the blue fuse resting on the white towel. Derek was the only person in the room who did not look surprised. He looked inconvenienced. Evelyn finally released the key and stepped out of the car. Her face was composed, but her eyes were not. 11 months, she said. Ryan nodded. The wrong fuse made the car fail. The diagnostic unit made the failure repeat. Dr. Reed turned toward him. You identified both from 3 start attempts. I identified a pattern. The car confirmed it. Evelyn looked at the engineers surrounding her father's Lamborghini. Several avoided her eyes. Others stared at the $9 part as though it had insulted every expensive assumption they had made. Claire approached with a digital contract already open on her tablet. The $2 million reward can be transferred today, she said. Ryan did not take the tablet. Marcus needs $9.12. Evelyn studied him. That is not what I offered. It is what the repair cost. You solved what 30 specialists could not. Ryan glanced toward Emma. She was watching him closely, the way children watched when they knew an answer mattered beyond the question. Then they should know the answer too. Dr. Reed stepped forward. He is right. We assumed the size of the problem had to match the cost of the car. That was our mistake. Ryan looked at the altered fuse. Not the only one. He picked it up by the plastic housing and held it beneath the work light. This did not come from normal service. Someone filed the contact so it would fail only under load. Evelyn's expression changed. Why would anyone do that? Ryan turned toward the open dashboard, where one trim panel sat slightly farther forward than the rest. Because they did not want anyone asking what else was hidden in the car. Ryan moved closer to the open dashboard but did not touch it. The engine continued to idle beneath the chandelier, steady and clean, while every person in the room shifted attention from the sound to the narrow trim panel near the center console. One edge sat less than a quarter-inch forward. Small enough to ignore. Deliberate enough to matter. Was that panel removed during the repair work? Ryan asked. Derek answered before anyone else. Multiple times. The dashboard was inspected completely. Dr. Reed looked at him. Not by my team. Claire opened the maintenance archive again and searched through the service history. The interior access was approved 3 weeks after Mr. Harrington's funeral, she said. The request came from Derek's office. Derek gave a controlled sigh. Because the immobilizer module sits behind that section. This is standard procedure. Ryan studied the panel gap. Then whoever replaced it did not use the factory clips. He took a small flashlight from his tool pouch and directed the beam into the seam. A thin strip of black tape appeared beneath the trim. Factory assembly used no tape there. Evelyn stood beside him, close enough to see but careful not to interrupt. Can you open it? She asked. Yes. Do it. Derek stepped forward. You have already restarted the car. There is no reason to dismantle more of the interior based on another guess. Ryan looked at him. You called the fuse a guess too. The room stayed quiet. Evelyn did not turn toward Derek. Open the panel. Ryan used a plastic trim tool from Dr. Reed's cart, working slowly so the leather edge would not mark. The panel released with a soft click. Behind it, the immobilizer module sat where the diagram showed, but one wire had been routed around the bracket instead of through it. Ryan followed the wire with the flashlight. It led to a small adapter attached beneath the dashboard. That is not factory, Dr. Reed said. Claire moved closer. What does it do? Ryan disconnected nothing. It mirrors the ignition signal and sends a wake command into the protection branch. The same signal that kept opening the circuit, Evelyn said. Ryan nodded. Every time the car tried to start. Derek folded his arms. Aftermarket diagnostic equipment. Probably installed by one of the outside teams. Claire checked the archive. There is no record of it. Then the records are incomplete. Your office signed every interior access request. Derek's face remained composed, but his eyes moved toward the service corridor. Ryan noticed. He also noticed the adapter's casing had been fastened with 2 different screws, one new, one older. Someone had installed it quickly, then returned later. Emma stood behind the velvet barrier, holding her toy car against her chest. Dad, she said, why would someone make it not work? Ryan looked at the Lamborghini, then at the hidden device. Sometimes people break the door because they are afraid of what is behind it. He traced the adapter wire farther beneath the dash and found a second connection entering a narrow metal compartment built into the console frame. There was no compartment on the factory diagram. Evelyn's breathing changed. My father modified this car himself, she said. He never told anyone what he changed. Ryan examined the small mechanical lock on the compartment. It was old, simple, and untouched by the electronics around it. The fuse was not protecting the engine, he said. It was protecting this. Claire's tablet sounded with a new search result. She turned the screen toward Evelyn. The altered fuse had been installed under a service order billed through Vaughan Technical Supply. The company belonged to Derek's younger brother. Derek stopped looking at the corridor. Now he looked at Ryan. Ryan did not accuse him. He only held up the blue fuse beneath the chandelier light. This part was designed to look cheap, he said. What it was hiding was not. The metal compartment had no electronic release, no diagnostic port, and no connection to the Lamborghini's factory security system. It was opened by a small mechanical key hidden inside the center console beneath a leather insert that Charles Harrington had stitched by hand. Evelyn recognized the uneven thread before Ryan lifted the panel. Her father had repaired it himself years earlier after refusing to replace the entire console for a minor tear. Ryan placed the key in her palm. "This belongs to you." Evelyn looked at the lock but did not move. The engine continued idling, steady beneath the chandelier, while Claire quietly asked security to seal the service corridor and preserve every maintenance record connected to the car. Derek remained near the diagnostic cart. "You are turning a repair into an investigation," he said. "Because a modified fuse and an undocumented device were installed through a supplier tied to your family." Claire's voice stayed calm. "That is not speculation." Derek looked toward Evelyn. "Charles authorized private modifications. He never explained them to anyone. You know that." Evelyn closed her fingers around the key. "Then we are about to learn why." She inserted it into the lock. The mechanism resisted for a moment, then turned with a dry click. Ryan opened the compartment slowly. Inside was a black flash drive wrapped in a folded shop cloth and a second brass key engraved with the initials C.H. No cash. No jewelry. No dramatic display. Just two objects small enough to disappear in a closed hand. Derek stepped closer. "That drive should go directly to corporate legal." Ryan did not touch it. "Not until you know who appears in the files." "You are a mechanic." "Yes." Ryan looked at the altered wiring. "And this car was disabled to keep someone from opening that compartment." Dr. Reed shut down the engine and removed the key from the ignition. The sudden silence returned with more weight than before. Evelyn lifted the flash drive but held it by the edges, careful not to damage anything. Claire brought a clean laptop from the secure office, one that had never been connected to the vehicle's diagnostic network. The drive required a password. Evelyn tried her father's birthday. Nothing. She tried the company founding date. Nothing. Emma remained behind the barrier with the toy Lamborghini held against her chest. "Maybe it is something only she would know," she said. Evelyn looked at the child, then at the engraved key. Her father had called the Lamborghini his Sunday car. Every Sunday, he drove the same road along Lake Michigan and stopped at a diner where Evelyn had eaten pancakes with him as a girl. She entered the name of the diner. The drive opened. Folders appeared across the screen: invoices, patent transfers, maintenance approvals, supplier payments, and one video file dated 4 days before Charles died. Derek reached toward the laptop. Claire closed it halfway. "Do not." Security officers entered quietly through the side door. No one raised a voice. No one needed to. Evelyn opened the video. Charles Harrington appeared seated in the Lamborghini's driver's seat, older and more tired than she remembered, but unmistakably himself. "Evelyn," he began, "if you are watching this, then someone worked very hard to keep this car silent." Her hand moved to the edge of the laptop. Ryan stepped back, giving her space. Charles explained that he had found inflated repair contracts, stolen engineering designs, and supplier accounts draining money from Harrington Automotive. He had copied the evidence and hidden it where only Evelyn would keep searching. "They will tell you the car is sentimental," he said. "Let them. Sentiment is the reason you will not abandon it." Evelyn lowered her eyes. Derek turned toward the service corridor, but the officers were already there. Charles's final words filled the silent showroom. "Do not protect what I owned. Protect what we built." The video ended, but no one moved for several seconds. Evelyn remained beside the laptop with one hand resting on its edge, staring at the dark screen where her father's face had been. The Lamborghini stood behind her beneath the chandelier, quiet again, but no longer dead. Claire began copying the files onto 2 encrypted drives while the security officers asked Derek to remain in the showroom. He did not argue. He only looked toward the car as if it had betrayed him. Dr. Samuel Reed reviewed the supplier records and found the same pattern repeated across 3 years: inflated invoices, unnecessary control modules, duplicated labor charges, and replacement parts purchased through companies connected to Derek's family. The wrong fuse had cost $9. The system built around it had cost millions. By noon, Harrington Automotive's board had suspended Derek and authorized an independent investigation. Every work order tied to Vaughn Technical Supply was frozen. Every engineer who had touched the Lamborghini was asked to preserve notes, photographs, and diagnostic logs. Ryan stayed long enough to explain the altered circuit to the investigators. He drew the sequence on a whiteboard in plain lines: ignition approval, false wake signal, resistance under load, protection shutdown. No drama. No accusation. Just cause and effect. Emma sat near the service door with her toy Lamborghini and a paper cup of hot chocolate Claire had brought her. She watched Ryan speak to people who had laughed at him less than 2 hours earlier. He did not remind them. Evelyn found him near the parts table after the investigators finished. The digital reward contract remained open on Claire's tablet. "The offer still stands," Evelyn said. $2 million. Ryan folded Marcus's receipt and returned it to his shirt pocket. "The repair cost $9.12. That is not what I am paying for." "Then do not pay me." Evelyn looked at Emma, then back at him. "You found the evidence my father died trying to protect." Ryan shook his head. "Your father hid it. You kept the car. I replaced a fuse. You know that is not all you did." Ryan was quiet for a moment. Across the room, Dr. Reed spoke with 2 younger engineers, showing them the file marks on the blue fuse. Emma rolled her toy car along the edge of her chair. "There is something you could do," Ryan said. Evelyn waited. "Build a training program for parents who cannot afford to stop working long enough to learn a skilled trade. Electrical diagnostics, hybrid systems, fleet repair. Night classes. Child care on site." Claire lowered the tablet slightly. Evelyn studied him. "You are asking for a school instead of the money. I am asking you to spend it where it keeps working." Emma looked up at him, and Ryan knew she understood enough. Evelyn closed the reward contract. "You would run it. I would help build it." "That was not my question." Ryan glanced toward the yellow Lamborghini, then toward his daughter. "Only if the schedule lets me take her to school." For the first time that day, Evelyn smiled without effort. "Then we have an agreement." The memorial took place the following evening. Former employees filled the showroom beneath the same chandelier. Charles Harrington's video played on the main screen, not the private message, but the final interview he had recorded for the company. When it ended, the rear doors opened. Evelyn drove the yellow Lamborghini into the room herself. The engine settled into a smooth idle, and the audience rose in silence before applause finally came. Ryan and Emma sat several rows back. She held the toy car on her knees. In Ryan's wallet, behind an old photograph of Laura, remained the receipt for $9.12.